There is this overwhelming sense in San Francisco that enough is enough with the drug use on the streets, the car break-ins, frankly, not feeling safe just walking in parts of the city. Do you honestly think you can change that as district attorney? And if so, when?
I certainly believe that I play a critical role in that getting changed. I don't think that I myself can change it per se. It's going to take partnership with the San Francisco Police Department, with the Sheriff's Department, and honestly with the other political leaders in the city who have an effect on policies and other things that happen in this city. We can't just allow people to violate laws, to bring chaos to our streets without doing anything about it.
So how soon do you think San Franciscans might start to notice some change?
I'm starting to hear from people already that they're seeing change. As we start to promote and ensure that there's accountability in our criminal justice system, I think that we'll see a difference, hopefully, within the next year.
We crunched the numbers, and in the 4 months since you've taken office, compared to that same time period the year before, burglaries are down 19%. But robberies are up 11%. So do you deserve both the credit and the blame for that?
I think the way that I should be evaluated is on whether or not I am holding the offenders of these crimes accountable. We had a period where there was virtually no accountability in a greater sense for many of the crimes that were being committed.
Are you specifically talking about under Shaban?
Yes.
What were those kinds of crimes that the office wasn't prosecuting?
He certainly wasn't willing to prosecute anything related to quality of life offenses. He wasn't willing to prosecute certain misdemeanors. He wasn't willing to prosecute even resisting arrest or certain assaults on officers.
How has the relationship between your office and the police department changed, and what is the impact on the safety of San Franciscans?
I think it's changed dramatically. I think it went from being virtually non-existent or antagonistic to now being a true partnership. And I think that's gone a really long way to motivating the police to go back out there and do their work, because we can do nothing unless they first make an arrest, and they need to feel that it's worthwhile for them to do their work.
Throughout this campaign, your opponents have called your ethics into question. You were a self-proclaimed volunteer for the recall effort to oust your then boss and DA, Shaban. And then shortly after the mayor announced she would be appointing you as the replacement, you disclosed that you were paid more than $100,000 as a consultant by a group with close ties to the recall campaign. The perception for some is that you were paid to speak out against Shaban. Were you?
No, and I've made that very clear that I was doing separate work for that nonprofit, which was different from my service as a spokesperson for the recall itself. I have tried to do nothing except bring to San Francisco the truth about what was going on in the DA's office. But I still had a family that I needed to support, and so I could not afford to not work or be unemployed for a significant period of time.
Can you understand why some might view it as a conflict of interest? And in hindsight, would you do anything differently now?
I certainly understand that why people had certain feelings about it. In hindsight, I would have preferred to have alerted people to that before. I certainly believe that it has served as a distraction from the work that I've been doing here since I became the district attorney, and I wanted the focus to be on this office and on the work that it's doing, not on a misstep of my part.
Just days before quitting your post as a prosecutor in the homicide unit, you emailed sensitive criminal files to another attorney in the office who was also about to quit the office and join the recall effort. The perception by some of your opponents is that you were trying to essentially gather intel to show how poorly the DA's office handled a case that you could then use as part of the recall campaign. Was that your intention?
Absolutely not, and quite frankly, all the information about that case and how it was mishandled was already in the public domain at that time. That case had already been reported on. We were simply discussing the case and how egregious we thought the situation was. I did nothing illegal or improper other than inadvertently sending it to a personal email address rather than an office, business email address. But I was certainly entitled to discuss that case like we do any other with another employee of this office.
So for those who might say, well, if neither of you had any professional ties to that case and you were about to leave the office anyway, why did you have the need to email it to him?
We were simply, like I said, discussing what we believed was the egregious nature of the situation, but nothing that we ever discussed about that case was outside of what was in the public domain already.
The attack on Paul Pelosi, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband, has thrust San Francisco and frankly you into the national spotlight. What do you think this case says about the current state of affairs?
I think it really demonstrates just how out of control politics has become in America, that we have decided that it's appropriate or okay to engage in violence in order to express ourselves politically. We need to tone things down. We need to become more accepting of the fact that we're not always going to agree, but we can't enact violence on our political leaders or their family members in order to get our point across.
The case has certainly garnered a fair share of conspiracy theories about what actually happened that night. As part of your investigation, are you able to shed any light as to why Paul Pelosi didn't run out of the house towards police officers when he was able to actually open the door for them when they arrived?
What I'm not able to do is to speculate or try to place my opinions on why someone acted the way they did in any case. All we have is what happened. Everybody reacts to situations differently, and he will one day need to explain, right, to potentially a jury why he did what he did and what thought process was going on in his mind. But certainly we know that all victims of crime respond very differently under the stress of the situation, and I don't think it's fair for us to place what we believe, Monday morning quarterbacking that we would have done in the same situation.
What do you say to those San Franciscans who didn't vote for you?
That I truly hope that they will allow me to serve them as best that I can and hopefully give me a chance to earn their trust.
At this moment in time, what gives you hope for San Francisco?
What gives me hope is that I think San Francisco sees that we can still be our liberal and progressive selves, but that doesn't translate into a lack of safety. It doesn't translate into lawlessness. That we can still push forward the ball on public safety, that we can set the stage for the United States on what it means to be true Democrats, but run a city efficiently and have safety for everyone.
We reached out to the former district attorney, Shaban, to get his response to Jenkins' criticism of his office. But when I introduced myself over the phone, Boudin hung up. With the investigative unit, I'm Bigad Shaban.